in open session. At this time, let's please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, at this time we have our first opportunity for public comments. The board welcomes questions, ideas, and comments from persons in attendance. Members of the audience may comment during the public comment portion of the meeting when recognized by the board president. We ask that comments be limited to 3 minutes in order to complete the agenda within a reasonable time. We also ask that comments begin by providing your name, address, and the school district in which you reside. Would anyone like to make a public comment at this time?
You want to go back? Go ahead. Lead us off.
See, I can sit on my hands at home. That's why I come here. Dave Buck, 124 South Elm. My grandson Miles is in 4th grade at Bristol. I'm blessed with 6 kids. The second oldest is Jenny. She went to med school at Tulane, did a residency at Stanford. She's really smart. She's in radiation oncology at Mercy here in St. Louis. But she knows a lot about the brain. And I asked her, I said, Jenny, are teen brains different than adults? And she kind of looks at me and goes, duh, Dad. Like, duh. Well, sure they're different. Just like their bodies are different. And we shouldn't treat teen brains the same as we treat adult brains. They're not fully developed yet. In fact, brains are not fully developed until age 25. They're still growing, they're still developing. The frontal cortex lobe is not totally connected, and that monitors problem solving, cognitive thinking abilities, and a bunch of other things. So it got me thinking about, if we're all about academics and personal success of kids, should we not take, particularly at the high school, the development of teens' brains more into account? Maybe we do, and I just don't know. But for example, a pet issue of mine is football concussions. 67,000 kids who play organized competitive football in high school are diagnosed with concussions every year. There's 14,000 schools that field high school football teams, so that's on average 5 kids per school. That's the average. I think even 1 is too much. I don't know what our track record here totally, and I'm trying to get it from Jerry and Cliff and others. Soccer is also another big one by heading the ball, right? But other high schools have kept soccer, because soccer is known in Europe as football. You play with your feet, and they have just eliminated headers in the game, and the game goes on. Kids just can't head the ball anymore, and it helps preserve their brains. So I think that's really important. Second thing is this whole thing about sleep. Teens need, and I'm sure you all know all this, I'm sure John does, but just I'm going to repeat it, is that, teens need 9 to 10 hours of sleep a night, they say, in order to function properly the next day. So you got a lot of schools that say kids hopefully go to bed on time, but we're going to start an hour later. Instead of starting high school at 7:50, you start at 8:50. Instead of getting out at 2:35, you get out at 3:35. It's not the end of the world, but it may be better for the way kids' brains work. And the last piece I just want to share is on the body side of things. I think our graduation requirements with high school are 24 credits. Only 1.5 is phys ed. And I'm just telling you, there are a lot of schools out there that think differently about the importance of fitness and phys ed, particularly during the teenage years. So they require more units. Maybe sometimes up to 1/3 of the units are somewhere in phys ed and fitness or playing on a sports team. All I'm trying to say is that teens are unique animals, And I don't know. I'm just asking the question. Are we adapting ourselves well enough to the unique nature of kids, particularly their brains?
Other public comments?
Good evening, Alan Todd, 35 Rosemont Avenue here in Webster Groves. I am a parent of a child at Bristol, a first grader, and also of one of the youngins in Ambrose in the 2-year-old room, the seedling room. I'm also a member of your Finance Advisory Committee. I sort of come here today just sort of as a report to you and also to anyone in the general public that's here after you guys pass your ballot language to put something on the ballot. We have set up a campaign committee. We are beginning to get started on the work that it requires to educate the community about what's in that proposal and what will be going on. We plan to run the campaign similarly to the way that you guys have ran this process. We want to be very open, very transparent, very communicative with the public. That's our intent as a campaign, sort of to model the behavior that you guys set forth for us. We have done all the necessary work to create the campaign, the committee, the organization with the Secretary of State, and we have something set up with the Missouri Ethics Commission. So all that stuff is set up and that infrastructure is in place. We're now in the process of just sort of putting our message together and beginning to recruit volunteers and do that sort of thing. So I had just sort of come to you to say if anybody's interested in volunteering or helping out, please see me after the meeting or during breaks. I will be here collecting names and email addresses, and we'll be getting started in the campaign here in the near future with things like knocking on doors and house parties, people want to do that sort of thing, and yard signs and all that fun stuff that comes with a campaign. So thank you.
Thanks, Alan. Thanks for taking the time to do that. All right, any other public comments? Okay, celebrations from board members. Let's start with you, Mr. Ward.
Just kind of in advance, an appreciative note to the high school for having the Douglas Celebration Night coming up this Friday night, where all the kids playing wear the purple and gold. I don't want to steal the thunder of our student board members who may mention this as well, but I've been to that on several occasions since they've been doing that, and that's really a really cool night. If you can be at the high school on Friday evening to see at least one or two of the games in the purple and gold, that'd be great. So,
And what's the date on that again?
it's this Friday night, the 8th.
Okay. All right, thank you.
I have a new night for the family reading night at Edgar Road School because it had to be postponed due to snow, ice, cold weather, no water, whatever that day was.
Still shaking.
There was a lot going, yeah.
February 21st, we cleared that with the school. It actually quite nicely dovetails with the science fair presentations at Edgar Road. So the family reading night, and again, the board, I would like to invite you. And then my oldest is on the girls swim team, and she came home very excited on Friday night because they won first place in the conference.
Awesome. Joe?
I will echo kudos to the girls swim team and suggest that we need some kind of swimming board at the high school. Every other sport has one, swimming does not have a record board.
Okay.
Boys or girls.
Really?
So,
I didn't realize that.
I'm not sure if softball does either, though.
I can't speak to that.
I would think, well, I don't know.
They've never,
But they don't have
conference.
swim. I mean, like,
All right.
I know this is Black History Month, and there'll be a lot of activities going on, but I know several staff members do Black History all year round, and just want to continue to encourage that rather than isolate it 1 month of the year.
Yeah.
Sheila?
Speaker will be having their Black History Month program on the 28th. So I encourage people to come and attend that. We are going to be honoring Dr. Gibbons for obvious reasons. But it should be pretty interesting. We're in the middle of planning that now. So.
Okay, great. I will be there. Student advisors, do you have any board celebrations?
Yeah, as I mentioned, the Douglas Night is being held this Friday. And we're also going to be trying to raise some funds for the college bus tour to Washington, D.C. For the Western Challenge. So,
I had a couple things. One was that This is the first time I've been back since winter break, so first off, it's good to see everybody. And I also got to, over with the winter break, Chartwell's did a renovation in our cafeteria, and it looks great. There's all new chairs, the lunch area is completely renovated, and it looks really cool and nice. So that was a really fun thing to see as we came back from break.
Cool.
And then just a couple other things. I've just been able to take part in some really cool conversations recently. One was at the Student as Allies committee meeting with Dr. Urban. A really cool conversation with a lot of students about the profile of graduate work that we've been doing. You know, a lot of really interesting stuff discussed and very receptive ears that it fell upon. And then my last thing was me and Jessica were in a class that got to be part of the teacher hiring process, where they come in and, you know, sort of demonstrate their teaching style and do a lesson. And that was a really cool thing to be a part of, and also really great to have our feedback be heard and taken into account of during that process. So that was also, you know, a very, very cool thing to take part in.
Very cool. Jessica, if people wanted to donate to the bus tour,
Yeah.
how would they do that?
We're having like a little 5-minute type, fill up the bucket as much as you can. We'll run through the stands and
Okay.
just put it in.
On Friday night?
Yeah.
Cool.
Between the girls and boys basketball game.
Okay.
So before the start of the boys basketball game.
Okay, cool.
Celebrations from administrators.
Kathy, do you?
Yes.
Okay,
Can I say something?
Sure.
I wanted to say something about foundation.
sure.
Oh.
Oh, wait, you coming? You got a spot on the
I
agenda.
got my own.
Aren't you special? I'll hook up your PowerPoint when you get there. A few things that I wanted to highlight. First of all, I had the opportunity, and did I already share about Canfield Drive with you all?
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
Not out loud, though.
I didn't know if I shared it. I didn't know, yeah, at a board meeting, but Eric Connors was in the playing of Canfield Drive, which was 4 actors who put on this production all around the Michael Brown shooting, and he just did a brilliant job. They did a brilliant job. Very emotional, the whole thing, and they're gonna go, and Keita was there, or not with us, but I know you went. Christine were there too? But they're gonna go and perform in New York as well, and they're gonna perform at another festival. And I know there's many of us that think it could get much bigger and a much wider audience, so.
That's awesome.
Very kudos to Eric, neat guy. I wanted to highlight girls wrestling. We had our first ever female state wrestling qualifier, Hannah Jansen, competed. So we had a number of young ladies that competed this year, and Hannah is the one who is moving on to state, which is super neat. Wanting to acknowledge Mr. Light, who's here, who's going to be, Jim Merkel, we know, has moved on, and Mr. Light will be writing on behalf of the Webster Kirkwood Times, and look forward to working with him. And then lastly, this week is Missouri School Board, next week we're meeting this week, School Board Appreciation Week, and we just can't thank you enough for all you do to keep kids at your center in all your discussions. Again, kind of like has been said before, whether we debate, whether we disagree, we're all in it for the kids and doing what we can to improve the quality of education and their experience in the district. There's a certificate from MSBA as well as a Webster School District mug, along with some candy treats, and the board cake, which is somewhat eaten, is also acknowledgement. So I've been told, don't put these in the dishwasher. Don't put them in the dishwasher. And thank you to you guys too. You didn't get a certificate, but you will when you become a
Blue Chevy.
Blue Chevy.
Uh-oh.
Oh, first meeting and there you go.
So thanks for all you do.
Must not have been yours, huh?
Either that or they just took it. That's
Right.
all.
It's going on right now.
I don't know.
It's fading. It sounds fading.
Kathy,
Right,
did
that's
you
it.
have some?
Yeah.
Oh, you don't? Okay. Correspondence log has been updated. Please review it at your leisure. And then the board calendar, note that we do not have a meeting on February 11th due to the MSBA Legislative Forum. Prop E Forum on the 13th, and then we will be back with a regular meeting on February 25th.
And I will send something out to those of you, I think it's, and correct me if I'm wrong, from the board, Steve, Joe, and Christine, who are going to the MSBA forum. You may be down there, otherwise work-related. And then Patrick and Jessica are also going, as well as Phil Freeman. So I can take everybody if you want to hop in the Simpson minivan, all those people, clean the Cheerios and wipe down the seats from Charlotte's
No,
milk.
don't fall asleep in the van, because I will take your picture.
Yes. Some students have found out the hard way.
As our student rep, one of our student reps found out last year.
That's right. So that's it.
All right, update on the board candidate filing. We have two people. Go ahead.
No, go.
No, go ahead.
No, go.
I was going to say, Dr. Stricker
Sorry.
and Alex.
Yeah.
Congratulations to you both. We look forward to you, Arnold, resuming another 3 years with us and Alex joining us.
Yeah. Congratulations.
And I'm not at all bitter that you don't have to run a campaign. Not at all, not at all. Foundation update, Dr. Dembo.
Now you're on.
So I just wanted to give an update that the foundation just finished their grant cycle and awarding the grants for this year. So this year, the foundation changed. In the past, there were multiple grant cycles throughout the year. And looking at other foundations regionally, that's pretty unusual to have such an ongoing grant cycle. Most foundations have one, maybe 2 times a year. So they really did a lot of work spreading the word. They talked about it in open session with all the teachers and really reached out and had work sessions with the teachers to help them understand what makes a good grant. All in all, 25 grants were submitted to the foundation and 14 were funded for a total of $32,000. And they really, again, the foundation and the subcommittees who work on the grants have really done such a great job and so much work trying to give really good feedback to everybody who has submitted a grant, even if it wasn't funded, so that that information can be used in case they want to maybe resubmit in the future. But a lot of really interesting things that I look forward to seeing go on within our classrooms throughout the district. Things such as inventions around design thinking will be funded at one school, virtual reality robots at another school, funding for an outdoor stage performance area at one school, take-home books and kits and activities for families to work around science, and a sensory garden for kids who have some special needs in our schools. So there's a wide variety of grants, and again, the grant committee and the foundation committee as a whole did such a wonderful job. So we thank them for their commitment. And the next foundation activity is March 3rd, which is the Cyrano's event to celebrate Mardi Gras. So that will be the next opportunity to get together with the members of the foundation as a fundraiser to help with our fundraisers.
Chris.
Thank you. Next up, safety, accessibility, and space. Dr. Simpson.
Yeah, just wanted to give you a brief update on just kind of the work that's happening on our end from the district side. You saw that right now we have a forum, at least our first forum, scheduled for this next week, February 13th. The purpose of that forum will be for us to kind of share on the items that we're proposing, along with the vision and why its effect on students. And so we're going to look at items to be addressed. We're going to share with the community that comes the funding structure, the funding plan. We'll highlight things, some of the more important details that people are asking questions about or would want to know about, such as the elementary attendance boundary lines and when we would do that, how that would be done, et cetera. And then we'll kind of do it just like we've done some of our other more forum type events where we'll just open it up for any questions. So just full transparency, here we are, what do you have? We'll record that so that people that aren't present can also watch that at a different time if they would like. We will advertise that by different blasts, social media, the Times, and then we'll also reach out to all the non-public schools as well as the different church groups. So we have an email blast that will go out to all the different ministers. One of the things we wanted the board to see what you thought is when we originally thought of this, we were planning on hosting one forum, but then continuing to host board Let's Talk sessions where there could be more informal discussion, even possibly theme-based around, what was going to be happening. But I know, and when I had spoken with David and Amy, there was talk of, do we have another forum, maybe 2 forums, and somehow showcase or let people know that board members will be present. I think they'll probably know that anyway, but tell them that. And just engage with people at that time and not do the Let's Talk, just because, again, the Let's Talks haven't been overly popular. So just kind of wanted to bring that before the body here today and see what you guys thought about. I'm certainly open to anything. If you had any strong opinions.
Sounds like a good idea.
I like the Let's Talk because I know when people came to the bread company, they came with issues that weren't related to space or that hadn't even been on the radar. And got to talk and know that they were heard. And I think, although that one was not very attended, I think the one that you went to in Rock Hill was a little more attended than that. No?
No. We've never had more than, I think, like 2.
The last 2 I've worked with, I have any.
Yeah.
No. We had 2, I think, 2 or 3.
I think it was probably a year or more ago, whenever I remember I kind of got pulled aside by a parent, but I know there was a fairly decent number, 4 or 5 people around the table, but that was one time that I remember that. And it was specific to one particular topic that they all wanted to talk about. So.
Yeah. So what do you think? 1 forum and continue Let's Talks, or 2 forum and no Let's Talks, or hybrid?
I think the forums are good because you can get a little more in depth and you present things a little bit more. And if somebody can't make the 13th, is that right? The date?
Yes.
Then that allows somebody a second opportunity to come. I personally think the forums are as effective because it's specific to, what we've been talking about and what was related to the bond issue and that sort of thing. So, okay.
I think if you let people know that board members will be in attendance if they have any other questions.
Yep.
I also think after April, we should revisit the issue of the Let's Talk, and
Sure.
at that point, maybe people will have other things that they want to talk about, but I have a feeling that the probably is going to be first and foremost on people's minds right now.
Sure.
Okay, that's what we'll do there.
Okay.
February 11th, just backing up, just so you know, that going live will be an RFQ for architectural and engineering services, so requests for qualifications. Those will be due on the 25th. And so once those are completed, Bruce, about when would the RFP go out? Would we wait till after, I'm thinking about it,
After the
April election to
Yes,
determine,
right after.
before we make them do any more work?
It will be in the wings, and we will already have gone through the RFQ process, the qualification process, to identify the finalist design architectural firms. That RFQ package is already in the process of being issued to several firms. And so as that gets narrowed down to probably 4 firms for the Hickson project, and then all of the other security and accessibility projects are being packaged in another group, so we'll have 2 RFQs, so somebody doesn't have to bite off the whole thing. It gives more opportunity for other firms to become involved, and so we'll be ready to shoot that RFP out as soon as we know the results of the election.
Thank you. Last thing I wanted to show you, and then if you had any questions, that is our website. Kathy V's done a lot of work with Pat Weaver on our website for the proposition. It shifted its title a little bit. There was some different chatter in Facebook this past weekend, as there will continue to be about the proposition, and it was pleasing to see people reference and quote the information and where to go to find answers to their questions. So I just wanted to real quickly just kind of walk you through it, just real simply. Go to the need to know, or go to the about us, sorry, and then,
No.
sorry.
There you go.
There we go. So then you go to this about us and you click on down here. And it's a work in progress. So know that it's a continued work in process. So you can come here and there's a scroll with some of the different pictures. And then if you click up here, you can see like an explanation right now is what it'll be of the different spaces. There's a spot here, which we got, again, that community member said, go ahead and ask them a question. They'll get right back to you. We had our first, we had a question here. We get a lot of questions, but usually they're just direct email. Kathy responded to them real quickly. Over here is all the pertinent documents. Those have been on our site all along. We've added them all along. A really good FAQ. So Bruce and Kathy and I have thought of what are the questions that people will have, what are the questions that come up. We just kind of keep adding to this particular FAQ, which I feel good about. Forum presentation. This is from one of the original forums that we conducted early in the fall. Survey results that people want to see. Video presentation on the space options, which Cooperative Strategies created, and then the April 2nd ballot language. So we'll continue to make this, upload resources, upload information. If you have any opinions or thoughts as to what you think needs to be added, or a question you're hearing that you want us to post a response to, just reach out.
Thank you.
That's it for me.
All right, the 2021 board calendar, Dr. Wiley.
Yes, I'll stand up. So in your materials, you guys were able to see hopefully the proposed 2021 calendar. So we did work as a committee. I think we met 3 times this year. And thanks to Arnold, who was the board rep that sat on that committee. If you'll notice in that this calendar was pretty much straightforward, very similar to last year. The major difference was in the month of August, in that typically teachers come back for a couple of days, they would get that day off, and then kids would come that Thursday, Friday or so to start school. However, with the days, how August fell this year, the committee made a recommendation for the teachers to come back on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then school will start on that Thursday. So without a day off, which is not common or had not been for the past couple of years with the calendar. So we did actually take that to a vote. Each representative went back to their school, posed a question. We gave them 2 drafts of the calendar to show what it could look like, what the options were, and overwhelmingly this was the choice that the teacher selected. And so this is the one that we would like to bring before you for approval. In addition, just wanted to point out, we made an adjustment that there's a PD day that will land right before Labor Day. And then the final adjustment was we typically would put the high school graduation on the calendar, and it is not on this calendar for 2021. I know that there's going to be some potential conversations related to the location, et cetera, related to that. So it just isn't listed on here for 2021.
Who will be having those conversations?
Dr. Simpson.
Yeah, so we've had some preliminary hallway type conversations, but I'm actually going to be, Jessica and Patrick will be involved in that, along with myself and a few of the folks from the high school, including Dr. Irvin. And you'll recall that last year we moved inside, which again, while Mossfield's tradition, it's not the greatest venue for viewing unless you get there early and get a spot between the 40s. But we know it's tradition typically in Webster. But last year, for not the first time, but having to move inside, We saw a lot of parents that weren't able to see their children walk across the stage live because they had grandparents from out of town, or high school students that are maybe the first in their families to graduate high school who didn't have grandparents that were allowed to see them walk across stage because they're only given 4 tickets. And we're one of the few places at this point that doesn't go to a plan for a bigger venue such as the Chaffetz Arena or St. Charles or something like that. So we wanted to, we feel we have a responsibility to explore that. So what I had asked Sandy to do is let's just leave off that date. We know we got to make a timely decision, and so we actually tried to get a date this week and it didn't work, but we're going to be starting that, and we'll report to the board on update before we, approve anything or look to you to approve it.
Do you know how far in advance those venues are typically booked? For those kinds of events?
That's a great question. Sherry's been a great help with reaching out to them. What they do is basically they're like in a line of who was the first one to ask for Chaffetz. So if you were one of the first to book Chaffetz, you continue to be the first to book it on a regular basis. So Sherry just reached out to him again, thank you, without me even asking her, and got some possible dates for us in the 1920 school year. So do you want to say anything to that, Sherry?
There's a lot of them that have booked them like a couple years in advance.
Yeah.
So they've got a lot of them that are open now or Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah.
Or later, or they're really early before the last day for seniors.
Yeah. Yeah. So some of the there are some different venues. St. Charles has space, actually pretty nice. Went there for the first time in December, a little bit further to go. The Peabody also does it. The only thing about the Peabody is that there's a pretty a steep portion, not a steep, but steep enough to outpace Chaffetz and St. Charles for some of the folks there to set it up, some of the union folks there to set up your chairs and do your parking and be at the door and stuff like that. But it'd be beautiful. So we are exploring it, and we'll give you updates.
All right, questions for Dr. Wiley or calendar committee? Arnold, anything you wanted to add as a member of the committee?
Nope. The committee did a great job.
Okay, great, thank
There's a motion to approve it,
you. Okay.
too.
Make a motion to approve the 2020-2021 calendar as submitted.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, thank you. And then, Dr. Wiley, you can stay there and talk about the extra duty stipend work.
Yes, just wanted to give you guys an update. We, as a committee, and Bruce will chime in at any point that I forget something or misspeak, but the committee started meeting back in April of 2017. And we've met probably in excess of 20 times. And so just want to let you know we do have different representation from all of the different levels, from high school, middle school, Steger, and then elementary, as well as HR staff, and then, of course, the business department. So what we've done so far, we're at a good place. We're at a very good place, I believe, to be able to bring something to you guys in the very near future. So currently we created, just to give you a couple of processes, we've created categories for the stipends and supplements so that things kind of fall in a area. So what is a supplement versus a stipend? We've given things umbrella names like secondary versus primary, school groups, leadership, things like that. So we've kind of given it a little bit of a framework. In addition, we've created definitions and requirements for the various stipends and or supplement agreements, just depending upon where they fall, so that people would know if I'm interested in a supplemental or I'm interested in a stipend or whatever. These are the requirements that I know I need to have in order to be or to even be considered for that stipend. We've also created evaluations for a lot of them. Some of them will include student feedback and some won't, but all of them have some type of an evaluative component. So we have created those evaluations based upon the job descriptions that we've created and pushed those out to the principals. And so we're kind of in a back and forth, give and take with it right now to get something solid that we believe that we can utilize. We've also created payment structures for those. So if you are a primary supplement, for example, a coaching position, you would be placed on the supplemental model, which will kind of has a number of factors in it, including planning time, number of students, student contact hours, visibility, things like that. And so that helps determine the rate. In addition, for certain stipends, we will utilize, or even supplements, we will utilize the market data. What are other districts paying? And then there are some student groups that are kind of like the clubs, some of those ancillary clubs or stipends that are out there. Those will kind of be based on a point system that principals will evaluate and give us feedback, and that'll determine what their amount is. So with each category or section, we have a different system, a financial system that lets us know how and when a person will be compensated. In addition, we have ensured that we have a lot of money for all levels. So as you guys remember, most of the stipends that you approve are typically at the high school. There's some at Hickson and some at Steger, but none at the elementary level. So what we've done is we budgeted to ensure that elementary schools, that if they would like, they have the opportunity to compensate their teachers for any after-school clubs or student groups that may develop, as well as providing a budget for all of the other groups. And so our goal right now is to bring this information. Bruce is kind of packaging all of the fiscal components with regard to what the committee created, and then we're compiling all of the logistical, human resources, this is how it functions, the nuts and bolts of it, and we'll pull that together and present that to the meet and confer group to process through, to get feedback from them and see what their thoughts are. Hopefully they'll like what we presented, and so that process won't take too many meeting times, and then we'll be able to bring something more definitive to you, a full, thorough report of what we're recommending for the stipend supplemental agreement. I've had some conversations with principals, giving them a little bit of heads up, but we've kind of kept them abreast along the way. Again, the committee, if you're wanting to know, is consistent of Eric Dunn, Jerry Collins, Cliff Ice, Sean Wright, Amy Bolt from Hickson, Jeff Atterbury, Tony Arnold, HR staff, and then Bruce. It's pretty much the committee. So, any questions about stipends or supplements?
Sorry if this is a dumb question, but can you just give us an example of like what's the difference between extra duty and a stipend? Like when is one versus the other?
Sure. So we try to eliminate the verbiage of extra duty out of it and just utilize the verbiage of supplement and or stipend.
Okay.
So for example, we would consider coaches, the arts, those staple events that we as a district yearbook, that we are saying that these things must occur every year at the high school.
Okay.
Those are considered like primary supplemental agreements. So those are annual components that will fit into the supplemental model that we will factor in plan time, student contact hours, those types of things. A stipend would be more like a student group. So at Hickson, they have something like they call K-pop. It's not something, it can happen one year or not the next year. So it's not a requirement. It's something that students sometimes will generally initiate. Excuse me, like there's the lumberjack club at the high school. May be there this year, may not be there. So those are, they're part of the lumberjack. So that's the distinction. So when you think supplemental agreements, we're making those the primary ones, the staple groups that schools are saying that they want in their schools as a part of what we offer kids. And the stipends, those student groups are kind of those groups that could kind of come and go, may not be consistent from year to year, and so they're paid on two separate models.
So what about, don't we pay extra for being like the head of the department?
Yes, department chairs.
So what is that? Is that a stipend?
Those are under the supplemental group.
Supplemental,
Mhm.
okay. And then why haven't we, I'm just curious, why haven't elementary teachers historically been able to receive these extra payments for the things that they do after hours?
Yeah, I've not been able to receive an answer for that definitively either way. I just don't think there was a structure in place. I don't think that, I think they have just done it without asking. And so, there are a couple of elementary teachers that are receiving some monies, but I think the principals have advocated at some point, and so they were able to get it. So I just think that it was just something that was unspoken, just an inequity in the system that no one really challenged. And so without structures and things in place, no one knew about it, so they didn't ask, and they just weren't.
I think, it was one of those things, like when I began in the job, it was one of those things I met with everybody, including Chris, and said, like, these are all the things I wonder about, these are all the things that I think that need attention based on my knowledge, and this was one of them. and it was due to some of the inconsistencies. Again, I don't think anybody was trying to do anything bad, but I know I didn't realize that, because I know some elementary principals back then, that was a long time ago, were paying people in their building to do extra stuff. I just didn't even know that was a possibility. And so my folks were volunteering and doing all these things, and then, and again, just some inconsistencies. I don't think ill-intentioned, definitely leaning more towards the upper levels, which if we're not careful tends to happen. And these folks have done a great job with the team and looking to provide a better system.
Yeah, I'm glad you're doing the work.
In fact, at the beginning of the process, we actually surveyed the staff about what are you doing outside of the regular school day, in addition to what your contractual responsibilities are that you're either being paid for or not being paid for. And we didn't hear hardly anything back from the elementary schools. We had a few from a few of the schools, but we didn't hear much back in that survey. It was interesting. We were kind of surprised. We hear quite a bit going on.
I think offering is a huge deal, and some people are just going to do it anyway, and it might be more aggravation to submit or try to have a principal advocate for that. So I appreciate that being the playing field being leveled and consistent in evaluations done, job descriptions, and everything like that.
Because certainly it serves students well to be in those kinds of after-school programs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It'll create some more opportunities.
And just the connectedness with the school, you build more of a community that way, and kids' attendance and sometimes performance increases because they're more connected to the school. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Well, you get to stay there and now talk about the Avery principal search.
Okay, so in your
Dr. Wiley
packets,
show.
it is unintentionally. So in your packet, you should have hopefully received the timeline for the Avery principal. As you all know, Dr. Arnold received awesome opportunity to be the HR person in Clayton School District. We'll miss him greatly. But what you have there is kind of our timeline for the process. Just want to point out that we will be meeting, of course, this Friday with the little people, with the student councils at Avery to kind of get their feedback. John and I will go over and have a chat with them. And then next week, of course, we'll be meeting with the staff and the parents. We have 3 basic questions that we ask them. We'll get their feedback. For your knowledge, after each parent and a staff meeting, we will also push out a survey for those who were not able to attend but would still like to give us their feedback. So that survey will go out that following on Wednesday so that people can provide us feedback if they would like to. I want to point out we're currently receiving applications. The posting will actually close on March 7th. As of today, I think we have 15 applicants that have already applied. Both John and I will screen them as they go, and I will do phone screeners with them, with the ones that we're determining that we want to move forward. We did provide the candidates with kind of the timeline in the posting, so they're kind of mindful, knowing that we'll probably get some seated administrators that are applying for the position, just so that they can kind of prepare themselves just in case they are moved along in the process. If you'll note on March 28th, that's the final round of interviews that'll be at Avery. And of course, we love to have board members that are present for that. So if you are interested in participating, please let John know, or you can email me.
Yeah, we always have one board member that sits in on that process, and I can't remember, I know Arnold's been involved at Hickson, Amy, you were at Clark.
I was at
Steve.
Bristol.
At
Bristol. Joe, have you done?
High school.
Joe did high school.
High school. Christine and Keita. I didn't know how we wanted to do this, but
You kind of
Just so
a fly
you
on the
know,
wall.
Yeah, I was going to say, we don't ask
Yeah.
questions, it's just more to observe, and then when the administration comes back with the recommendation, the board member in executive session, we will probably ask you, what was your takeaway, just to kind of have another set of eyes and ears on the process.
Not only because it's just right across the street from me, but
Sure.
also because Avery is one
It's
of
your
the
home
schools.
school.
Yeah, well, no, it's not our home school, but it's not right now. It's the school that I represent, or I'm a liaison to,
Yes.
on the board. So I'd be happy to do it.
Okay, that'd be great.
Great. Okay. So we will add your name, Christine. The date is there. The time, I've not given an end time. It's just all contingent upon how many candidates that we kind of take there. So just for your knowledge, typically on that first round of those panel interviews, we'll typically bring 10-ish, somewhere around there, a good solid number to that. And then we slowly kind of bring that number down to that final round. In past, we brought 2 to the final round, we brought 3, so it just depends. I know that John is committed to hiring the best person for the job, so we will not settle on whatever the pool renders. If we need to go back, if we need to do some other efforts, we will definitely do that. I am encouraged though, at the 15 we already have so far, knowing that you always get a nice chunk that kind of comes at the end. So we're very excited about that, and we'll continue to do the screener interviews as we go along so that we're not, overwhelmed at the end with all of the applicants with that. So, yes.
Sandy, quick question, and only because of the fact that usually good people are applying for more than one job.
Yes.
Do you think that there's a chance that of that 8 or 10 people that you might identify as your quote-unquote next tier, that a couple may fall out just because of getting other opportunities or something like that? So that's why that number, can be a little bit bigger than what some people might initially think would be. A little less unwieldy if you had a little lower number, but then again, you might lose a couple people somewhere in that
Absolutely.
process.
Yeah, in our processing, I don't recall in any of our most recent principal hires that we've had that, but we know that that exists. And we are very open with the candidates as we're processing with them, and we ask them, if there are other opportunities or things you're considering, let us know. Again, that's another reason why we put the timeline out there, but this is prime time. A lot of postings are out there right now for principalships and APs, as well as assistant superintendent. I just talked to a superintendent today, and they're hiring an assistant. So this is prime time, and we realize that. But I think we're fairly confident in the pool that we're going to pull and what we can do. But we will continue to be very open and honest with them.
And I'm glad to see that you had that number of applicants already just in the first week or so of knowing that it's out there. So that's great.
And we've had a couple of people call up and clarify and ask questions, and I've not seen, we asked them for a written prompt or a video, and I've not seen anything with video yet, so I know that there's definitely more to come. So we're excited. So any other questions?
All right,
Thank you. Thank you, Christine.
All right, at this time we have our second opportunity for public comments.
In my little life, I get a chance to talk to a lot of people in the district, but outside the district. So here's just some feedback on Prop P, for what it's worth. Some concerns. Enrollment projections are unreliable, or better said, maybe they fluctuate and therefore they're not really predictable. And even in the write-up, it says that in later years, those projections come down, which just creates an element of doubt, is all I'm saying. Second, some people view what's going on at Hickson as too big. It's too massive, because it'll be one of the biggest middle schools in the area, and you know how people in Webster react to things that are just too big. And so just sharing that. Prop S&W basically had option B in it. And I have heard this feedback. It's an old idea. You're dusting off an old idea. Can't you come up with something new? Okay? And then, Bruce, I heard this, which was, and I'm a non-financial guy, they said, there's a no tax increase bond issue, but there's also something called a no tax levy increase bond issue. And they're evidently two different things, and all I'm saying, we need to really clarify that, because you do have people that look this stuff up. And one of them, interestingly enough, what stretches payments out and does result in a tax increase. So I think we got to be really careful in how we position and talk about this stuff. And then last thing is that I know you all don't interrelate with city council too much, at least that's my perception, and it has been for several years now. I think they could be a real ally in Prop E. And so if you have not sat down with them, like in a private work session, and taken them through this, Because you've got people like Laura Arnold on there, you got Matt Armstrong, you got Pam Streifler, you know, and list, you know, all of these people who have had kids come through the district and are real supporters. And so I think if you get the city council behind you, I think that will be a big, big asset, okay? That's it.
Any other public comments? All right, at this time I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda 8.02, 8.03, and 8.04.
Thank you, Ronald.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Steve. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you. Guys, give David credit for this one. David's
Mr. Light's
I
gonna
know,
do this
I'm gonna have
perception
to.
is gonna, I think they're all this short.
Some of the things you might have to keep on your
I told him he owed me. So make him happy.
that?
I said I told him I owed him. He owed me. Make him board meeting.
Just don't tell
Still
him,
buy
just
me a
don't tell
drink.
him.
I know that is because I'm
He would be proud.
a lot of times you hear a lot of
He's really excited.
things like you're, you know,
I'm sorry. Oh, sure.